You've got your billions, you've got your power. But would the wealthy ever actually try to solve a problem?
Which tech billionaires did they base these four guys on, and how could we have interpreted that so differently?
Just because they're brilliant, it doesn't always mean you can make it on the street.
Writer and director Jesse Armstrong certainly gave us Succession vibes, but does this one adequately fill its shoes?
Escape the big tech takeover. Red and Red Real Reviews climbs up Mountainhead on HBO Max.
Ahoy, ladies! Didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Been staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
Welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. Filling in a little movie here. We kind of tease the movie edge a little bit sometimes on the show. And this one, Mountainhead, it certainly has a lot of gravitas going into it. You see Succession right on the front. You see Steve Carell's face. So there's a lot of like instant kind of grab attention about it. And with all that hype kind of on the front end, we have to tell the audience, should they watch this? Should they watch Mountainhead?
So, I mean, I think it's a little bit awkward for me because I don't feel like since we've had this show that I have actually said, no, don't watch something. You know, even with Lioness and its issues, even with The Last of Us and its issues, I still thought there was something in it that was worth watching. For me, I actually didn't like this one. I wouldn't really recommend it. It was, I think if I were to recommend it, there's literally a 50-50 chance that you would or would not like it. So I don't know. I just kind of felt like meh about it. So I would not recommend it personally.
I didn't feel meh about it. I mean, it wasn't something that I was like, oh my God, go watch this. But at the same time, like I watched it and I enjoyed it. I wasn't bored or drowned down by it, despite a lot of jargon in it that is a little, I mean, requires some intellect watching it. Despite all that, it didn't feel like it was drowning at all.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like it was over my head or anything like that. I almost kind of feel like, you know, we have as the writer and director, Jesse Armstrong. He's the one that has the tie to Succession because I don't know if he directed Succession, but I do believe he wrote literally all the episodes or like is the show's creator. So it almost kind of feels a little bit like because he had this prior relationship with HBO or HBO Max or whatever you want to call it for Succession, that he was kind of a shoo-in to make this movie. But I just didn't think it was that good. Like it just seemed like it never really hit where I wanted it to go. I just kind of had like roller coaster feelings the whole time. I was like, oh, okay, we're just going over background information. Okay, I'm bored for a little bit. Okay, there's some dark comedy here, which there's something to that writing. You know, there's something clever about that writing. Then the ending just kind of left you with a weird feeling, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I don't know, it just never got there fully for me where I actually somewhat enjoyed it.
Roller coaster is a good word because to me the arc it starts out with this kind of reconciliation angle with Jeff Dugard mentality and the other Brewsters having this kind of corporate elitism and quest for enrichment, and then it almost kind of felt like a little bit of the Men Who Built America TV show where they were kind of like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and Rockefeller. and they're trying to figure out this scheme against government regulation. And then by the end, of course, not to spoil anything right off the top, but we wind up having that resolve the Jeff situation. So roller coaster, I feel like, is a good word for the arc because it had these peaks and valleys where it kind of like shot you on a direction like, wait, what is happening right now?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. You're just kind of not sure what it's trying to be. Is it supposed to be a comedy? Like it kind of
Oh,
seems
I
like
didn't.
it is.
I
Mean,
knew
like
what it was trying to do. It was a ride to go on while it was showing you that.
it had the same vibes as Succession. Like, this Jesse Armstrong has this sort of sarcastic, biting humor to him, like in Succession, but it had that same kind of feel. But yeah, towards the middle, it felt like, is this trying to be a dark comedy or like what's going on? Like, is this more of a drama? You're just kind of the whole time you're trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is this movie trying to be?
It's like other than their kind of like friend banter, like I didn't get comedy vibes from it at all. I just thought that was the nature of the dialogue and the writing. Um, I to me it felt like it was from the blurb I read on IMDb, it wasn't what I expected, but I also thought, watching it, it kind of just felt like this quest for power amongst these friends. Like this whole time they're trying to figure out a way to advance their power and influence. And sometimes they were in parallel to each other, and other times they were against each other. So it was kind of watching that kind of relationship.
Yeah, and it's sort of a selfish power struggle that they all have. Like they're friends, like what do they keep calling themselves? I forget. But
Roosters.
yeah, so they kept saying that, but you're just in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, these are probably the types of friends that are all nice to each other and like, oh, buddy, man. And then behind each other's backs, they're talking shit, which is weird because most guy relationships are the opposite of that. Like that's a thing with women. So that was kind of a weird dynamic, but yeah, you get the sense that they're all trying to outfox each other and like trying to screw each other over the whole time. And it makes it hard to root for any one of them when they're all kind of jerks.
I think that was kind of the nature of their friendship, though, because they have that scene early on where they go to where they sled to the top of the mountain and they like paint their net worth on their chest and then do this primal cry at the sun.
Just totally not relatable though. And I was also thinking with that scene, I was like, wait, is Super writing on their chest with lipstick or what is he writing with? Is it a marker? Like I literally could not tell, but I was like, this is so incredibly unrelatable. Like the only people who can laugh at a movie like this are like Jeff Bezos and Zuck and the whole gang.
It's like in The Hangover, Blood Brothers.
See, that would have been funnier, but I'm pretty sure he was like writing in lipstick, which was a little bit weird.
Or red marker or something like that.
Yeah. Who knows?
Relatability is a good segue because there's four main characters here, and really, you could almost say four only characters in the movie because any other actor in the movie was very minimal.
Right.
So I know, and I don't necessarily disagree with your point here about them not being relatable because they're they're designed to be very elitist. But as far as like maybe a favorite or a different or taking a different look on it, which character had the more endearing arc of the four of them?
I think the person who had the most endearing arc for sure was Super, or we find out his real name is Hugo and they don't even call him that. But I find Jason Schwartzman to be really funny. Like he always kind of plays these roles where he's like a lovable loser and he's just a little like dry and quirky. That's usually his his MO. So I loved his character, and he had some funny lines with the whole Jeff scene. And but yeah, I mean, the whole time we learned that the reason they call him Super, it's like SOUP, not like SUPER, So because that's a nickname, because he's the poorest in this little group of tech, the tech rich, or the tech CEOs. So they make fun of him because he has the lowest net worth. And we'll talk about it a little bit towards the end, but basically it kind of ends up being full circle, because his little app that he made ends up kind of scoring big in the end. And because of the issues in the world, he ends up winning out because of the product, this app that he's created. So he's the real winner in the end, I think. And it's
Allegedly.
funny because he's like the lowest performer, and like they're kind of laughing at him like, oh, I forget what the numbers were, but wasn't his net worth like, was it like 300 million or something?
It was like, I think it was like 521 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So they were like, haha, you only have 500 million. And they were, like picking on him for it. And then, the issue with Super giving up his bedroom to Randall, right? So like, oh, he's the richest person in the world. Like, I got to give him something. So like change over my bedroom to be his for this weekend or this retreat.
Yeah. Just trying to be a nice friend.
Yeah. And he was, I mean, to be honest, he was the only one that had some sort of, like, you could have compassion for him, in the fact that he's being made fun of. And like, of course you could argue, oh, well, it's all in good fun. They're all friends, they're just, clowning on him. But he, like, I feel like with joking, there's sometimes a half seriousness to it. So you kind of get the sense that it's just like bitter jokes that they're throwing at him.
I mean, you think of stand-up comedy, the best stand-up comedy is the one where there is an element of truth to it.
Right.
Even if it is mean. So, I mean, that's not necessarily something that I would think of as negative.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, can you imagine though if your nickname were something that like
Soup Kitchen,
like dragged you down like that?
Yeah, I think it was because it was short for Soup Kitchen.
Like that's like, someone, your nickname being like Fatty, or like what if they called us as redheads like, oh, Big Red, because you're big and fat, or it's just like I'm not good at insults, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. I just found like they were being a little bit cruel to him, and he's
You'd be
just
a terrible contestant on Yo Mama.
I would. Yeah, I don't know. They were just being like, there was just like a little bit of a tinge of cruelty to how they treated him.
It was the lovable loser moniker, I think, is very present on Super.
Yeah.
And also because he's also the only one, and he's like, it has this self-conscious moment where he expresses it, but he has these kind of self-doubt issues of he's the only, like, he feels like he's the only one where he's hit a struggle and not had a success out of it. Like, it seems like everything he does results in failure.
Yes. And they were trying to comfort him, like, oh, well, you have to have the failures, like, and I mean, he was really opening up by saying that whole thing. I think I noted that down, but yeah, I felt bad for him. And I noticed that he was the only one I really felt the most sympathy towards. I mean, obviously when we find out Randall has cancer, that makes us feel bad for him, but then his actions later, we don't really feel so bad for him.
The sympathy goes away quickly.
Yeah, but I don't feel like my sympathy or uh the way that I found Super to be endearing ever really wavered. It just kind of was there the whole time.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, Super. I liked Soup, but at the same, I don't know. I necessarily found him endearing because he did kind of had just that lovable loser, and I mean, I don't
Mm.
necessarily think that's relatable. So
Yeah, I don't know. I just when he it just seemed like he's just, even with like his net worth, like he's just a guy who's trying to fit in, you know? It's like you feel a little bit bad for him.
well, it's hard to feel bad for someone with $500 million.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny to say
Yeah,
that you feel bad for a millionaire?
yeah. On the topic of Randall, this one was, and he was interesting to me because it was never really stated how he got his billions. It was just assumed that he's this incredibly smart guy. They I think at one point early on they say he's the richest man in the world, which
Mm.
actually I'm thinking actually I thought they were referring to him at the time, but I think they're actually referring to Venice. Um, but at another point in time, they referred to him as the smartest man in the world. His nickname, they kept calling him Plato. So other than him just having this extremely high intellect, I don't know if it was ever really made clear like what Randall did. Like he's the second most wealthy of the four of them, and it wasn't really stated like is he in tech? Is he in AI? Is he rub elbows with politicians? Like what is Randall's deal?
I think it's kind of all of the above. What I took from it is that Randall is an investor and he's
Yeah,
invested in all sorts of businesses. And that's why they kept like calling him Papa Bear, right? Isn't that what they kept
yeah,
calling him?
yeah. He was very much at one point, or at least it was known in his interactions with Jeff. It was known like he was their mentor.
Right. And think about it. If someone is Papa, Daddy's got all the money. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I just think of it as he's probably an investor. And then he had a deal with, he had invested in Ven's company, correct?
mhm.
I think was he on the board for Ven's company? I'm not
He was
totally
on the
sure.
board. Yeah, because
Yes.
obviously I don't want to talk too much about the ending, but there was a
Mm.
tension to like push so and so out and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just kind of got the sense that he got that way. He got to be so rich by throwing money at all these different businesses and really putting up the dough for them.
Yeah, he's just lining the greasing the tracks and
He's making it
watching
rain.
making the money off everyone else.
Right. And like that's why he was Papa Bear, because yes, he's a mentor, but he's the one who you got to go to if you want the cash, because he's the one that has it.
Yeah, but like you said, he's also the one that you get that instant sympathy moment for him with his health, and then
Mm.
he's also the one that kind of conducts this big plan against Jeff, and you lose that sympathy pretty quick.
And I think too, wasn't it? I think on the plane, the first sense I got of him being sort of a jerk is like you literally find out he has cancer, I think.
Hmm.
And then he's just like a total jerk to
The
wasn't
doctor.
the doctor, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah, he's like, oh, but you can solve this in X amount of years, or oh, that's okay. Like he's kind of like downplaying the terminal nature of this.
yeah. He really he was sort of mean to the doctor. So in that
Yeah,
moment, I was sort of like, I don't know if I feel bad for him if that's how he's that kind of person that treats people that way. Eef.
yeah. After we just had an episode where you kind of spoke opinions about doctors being sketchy, and then you have the doctor that you feel bad for.
Well, this doctor I felt bad for. I don't think he was saying anything that was offensive. Like he was trying to be, I think he was trying to have good like bedside manner. He was trying to be sympathetic, and then Randall just kind of like bit his head off. It's just like,
Yeah,
eek,
yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah. Well, it didn't get quite to the point of biting anyone's head off with Jeff, but let's say it got pretty close. Jeff, I will say his kind of like goody two shoes approach to the world was a little stomach turning, but at the same time, he also, of the four of them, he also seemed the most genuine, and his dry humor was also, to me, was the funniest amongst the four. So, I mean, despite that whole kind of like typical way left interest that he has, I kind of found Jeff to be my favorite of the four, just because he did kind of at least seem genuine as far as his intentions for his company and built her.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of found him to be like one of those famous philanthropists. You know, he's sort of like Leonardo DiCaprio if he were a tech giant, you know, just like, oh, look at what's going on in this country, or look at the unrest that's happening here. But it's like when it comes down to it, you don't really want to do anything to solve the problem. So, and like what's funny is I don't really know that any of them talk about how they can solve these problems in the world. Do they really
Well,
offer any solutions?
and it's funny because like he's always throughout the movie he's kind of, I don't necessarily say unnerves the right word, but he has a very high stake in the effect of Ven's processors on society. Like as far as the deep fakes and seeing truth from reality from fiction. But he's also like he's scrolling through Instagram all the time for this news story, that news story, but then he's got CNN on and he's watching the news there. So it's like, wait, like which one do you think is the deep fake here? Like you're getting your news from two sources, which typically, you have alternative sources and then traditional sources. They usually are contradictory to each other. So like, which side are you really on as far as picking apart, the effect of Ven's company on, people's information?
Right. How are you hoping to actually get to the truth? It just seems like they're sort of like they thrive off the misery that's going on. They're, on their phone scrolling like, oh man, look how things are horrible over here. Oh man. Oh, but they're just devouring it. They're not trying to improve the problem or think about, hey, what can I do as a tech billionaire to help this problem?
No, it's almost like their solution is like, what can we do to make ourselves even more powerful and then affect the problem and then try to change the problem. It's like let's not change the problem and solve the problem and then be famous. It's let's amass more power, more influence, more wealth, and then we'll be looked at as the only heroes, so to speak, left to solve the issue.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why I found them all to be kind of insufferable because, I think of they're basically like politicians. Like, yes, they work for the tech industry, but it just reminds me of the politicians who are all about, oh, how these, illegal immigrants are treated, or how this certain group of people are treated as disgusting and it's cruel. But yet if you ship those people to their town, they don't want them there. So yeah. Like it's like you want to squawk about what the issues are, but you don't want to do anything to actually contribute to solving the problem. So what's the point in your complaining? Like you just want to be the loudest one in the crowd.
The typical higher class person that complains about diversity and then lives in a white picket community.
Right. It's just so hypocritical. So that's kind of what I felt about Jeff when he's just on his phone devouring all this content of, oh, look what's happening in this country. It's just like, but what are you doing? You have the money to do something. What are you doing to help this?
And you've supposedly got this program that, if you unleash it, can instantly tell everyone what's truth and what's fiction. But you
Yeah,
haven't.
so right. It's just like you have it waiting in the wings and you're waiting for your moment to get the most credit and the most power and the most notoriety. Like I just found that was kind of false. And it was just kind of cringy for me when they're all sitting there talking about other countries and their problems and talking about world leaders and what's going on in the world to make it fall apart. And it's just like you guys are so concerned, but yet you're just sitting there talking and there's no action. It's all lip service, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, the one that probably had the had the most kind of big head about him, at times was the most obnoxious, was, ironically enough, the one with the highest wealth, and that's Venis. And there was a part of him that felt compelling because he's like this like super hyper energized tech giant, and he's always like more power, more wealth, more control over this. There's this kind of uh angsty, for lack of a better word, relationship with Jeff, as far as, my processing servers and your AI. Think of how these two can come together, and it winds up being a little bit of a rivalry, if that was the word I was trying to think
Oh
of.
yeah.
Um, but
Competition.
yeah, but then it almost seemed like this has like a burnout effect on him, where he's get his son comes to visit and he hugs his son, he's playing with out in the yard, and then they leave, he starts beating up a tree. So it's always like Venis is almost like this guy that he's got everything in the world, yet he's kind of like still extremely empty in here.
Yeah, and you know what? I do think obviously they took these well, Jesse Armstrong took these four characters and he tried to mold them into like combinations of tech leaders that exist, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know who like Jeff and Super would be, but to me, a Randall was like if he's the richest guy in the world or just about there, like to me, he'd be like a Jeff Bezos, but he had cancer, which is more like Steve Jobs. But then you have Venis, who I see as being an equivalent to Mark Zuckerberg. And the reason that when I saw that first scene, it starts off the movie with Venis in a car and he's posting to social about his new technology or his new launch of his thing. So he's just sort of like douchebag, sort of like a douchebag frat boy who kind of reminded me of Zuck in the fact that he's just like super cocky, arrogant, like thinks that he's so smart and that all he can say that he's going to post, he's like, fuck with two U's. And like, it's just so like pretentious and stupid. And so then look with the scene when his son came to visit, they're all watching him out the window. And I think Super says like, hey, are those my chess pieces? That because he just like put them on the ground for the baby to play with.
Yeah.
And like they were just remarking, they're like, I feel so bad for him just because it just looked like such an awkward scene where Zuckerberg was Zuckerberg. Oh my God.
There we go.
Where Venis was so like detached from his son in a way. Like I think he picks him up and he like talks to him, but it just there was no like warmth there. And yeah, it did remind me of people always joke about Mark Zuckerberg like being a robot. They're like, I have no feelings. I'm Mark Zuckerberg. You know, like they always talk about him being robotic and stoic. And I did kind of feel like Venis had that. He had that coldness inside him. And he also had that like, I'm a cocky frat boy kind of attitude also.
See, it's funny to me because all those qualifiers about Venis, I think, are completely accurate, but you're looking in that as far as our interpretation of Zuck. But the elitists, they love Zuck. So I was almost thinking that they were trying to make Venis out to be Elon Musk because they all hate Elon Musk. So they were trying to put those emotions that they have towards Elon Musk and encapsulate him as Venis.
Interesting.
And
I
when you
think just
think about how tied Venis is to this artificial intelligence processing software, that's like right up Elon's alley.
right with the what is it called? Neuralink.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that has the potential to be a very big milestone, but it also has the potential to be a catastrophe, which I
yeah,
think is what they're kind of framing Venis's technology as. Like, look at what it's done to the world. But like, if we just tweak it in this certain way with Jeff's technology, then we can make it a little bit more tolerable and not have so much power.
yeah. What was he saying about like what it could do to solve, Palestine? He was saying like, you know, show the videos to all these people that are fighting each other of like Snoopy masturbating or something, and everyone's like, oh yeah, well this isn't so bad. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just one. That's what it's gonna take to solve thousands of years of fighting to see a cartoon dog jacking it off.
Yeah. I mean, I just that's the thing too, is they do kind of make Venis seem like immature, I guess, in some ways.
Oh yeah, Venice is
He's
very
got
immature.
yeah, like he's so rich and he's got all this power because he's got this technology, but he's still so immature inside. Like he can't even make it last with his son's mother, like he can't even he doesn't know how to like hug a child and like have feelings.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't necessarily put it out of the question when he's describing the marriage that they did it as a joke. Like I could, like the way they designed his character, I could totally see him as the person that married someone that was like either the polar opposite of him to kind of make him look more neutral or something, or in support of something he really doesn't give two shits about. Like I could totally see like that being the truth in the matter with his marriage, as far as like, well, of course it ended because it was never really real.
True. True, but it's like you have this kid to think about now. So, like what kind of man are you going to be with your kid?
Yeah, I don't think he probably thought that out at the time of, creating a family.
Which is insane to me because, just because someone has more money than anything in the world, like it doesn't mean that they consider these things.
No, no, no. Of course, I mean they're thinking there. It's either a God complex of sorts, where like, of course I can have a family because I can do all this other stuff, and it's also a certain sense of uh and also probably a little bit of a sense of normalcy as far as like we're existing up here on so much. Let me have something normal and traditional to kind of, feel like I'm not always up here, which I feel like they always want to be up here. But, there's probably something in the back of your mind when you're at that level that like, let me have something normal.
Oh yeah, or it's like they just want to they want to seem to others like, what? Like, yeah, I have a lot of money, but I'm relatable. Like,
Right. I have a
I have a
wife. I have a
kid. Yeah.
son. Yeah. Now as far as like real life goes and comparisons to that, this isn't our first rodeo as far as Hollywood signaling a red flag of sorts to AI, even if our previous dance on it was Atlas in a more futuristic scene set. But I feel like on some level here, and sometimes Hollywood, if they don't do it intentionally, they walk backwards into this kind of messaging. But they almost kind of like, I don't know if they're, again, whether by action or design, they were signaling some kind of warning about AI getting so big and being in bed with big business and tech and that sort of thing here.
Right, which is a worry that people have. The first worry is that AI is going to destroy the world when it defies us, when it defies humans and decides to go against what we're telling it, then yeah, that's a worry. But also, it's a worry if the companies that peddle the AI don't have our best interests at heart, which
No. Yeah.
is something they talk about, because they talk about Jeff being a concern because he wants to sell his technology. Like, he's kind of sitting on his technology so he can sell it to the US government.
Yeah, and they're like, "Whoa, don't do this." Where you're like, what they call them, like a decel.
So that could be dangerous too. I mean, but yeah, it's one of those, never-ending debates of, which issue concerning AI is the biggest one that we need to worry about, because there's several.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought it up before about the Neuralink, and Randall goes to Venice at one point, because with this kind of terminal thing in the back of his mind, and they like, how close are you to taking human conscious and digitizing it, basically. So like that is the like it's kind of taking where we are now in real life as far as AI just kind of existing as a matter of convenience, and like throwing it way in the future, like this is where it could go. And I almost, every time movies and shows do this, I always think of from the Kingsman, where they put the chip in everyone's head and then they could just hit a button and everyone's head start exploding.
Right.
And I'm thinking, like, why do you, like, okay, it may be convenient, and oh, you don't have to look at your phone for something, but think of that thing in your head that could be a ticking time bomb. What is wrong with you?
Right. And it's a way to control people, or it could be a potential way to control people. It could be like what do they call it? Not a social currency, but yeah, just a way of policing people. Oh, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna blow you up via that device in your neck. It's not always like, oh, we can help a person who's paralyzed walk again, or not like these medical miracles that people think it's going to be. It's not all that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's all of that. It's all the bad stuff too.
Yeah, and I felt like their existence around these issues, like it started out, the movie was almost sometimes making a mockery of the elite and the uber wealthy,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. And then as it touched on like their contention over the deep fakes and that sort of thing, and it goes into like that prolonging of human life, and like it really kind of felt like, I think like that was kind of the meat of what this movie was trying to do, is trying to like create a narrative around how these billionaires actually want to push this stuff forward.
Yeah, and I think it must be something about Jesse Armstrong. I don't know what his background is, if he has been in the tech industry, if he has been in the PR industry or the media industry, like in Succession, but it does seem though like he is sort of calling out or making ironic observations about rich people like in our society, where it's similar vibes as this Succession, but just with tech. And he's sort of poking fun at how trivial their problems are. The world is, experiencing all these issues, and they're watching it play out on their phones and on social media, yet they are worried about their friend. And so they literally are trying to figure out ways to off him. But it's comical because they don't really know, like they're for all the money they have and all the technology they came up with, like they're actually common sense stupid, like that's why it was so comical. Like they're trying to like smother him. Like they're like, oh wait, what if we do, like they have no idea what they're doing. Like these three billionaires can't even put their heads together to successfully off a guy. Like they're just not that smart after all.
Well, I mean, this is something I was told at a very young age. Book smart and common sense are not. I'm sorry, book smarts and street smarts are very different things.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I mean, that was kind of like the I guess the kind of the climax of it is when they decide they're trying to kill Jeff, and that kind of like leads us up to a very interesting ending of this because they go through this whole escape room of sorts as far as, they're locked in the house. Super shuts the thing down. They're trying to find Jeff. They wind up locking him in the sauna, and Jeff's trying to negotiate for his life. And he winds up signing away his fortune, the Builder program, and he winds up coming out, and it's almost like, well, you guys are my bros. I love you. Like, here's this gift of the final whiskey I made, from our Brewster's days, and he chugs a half gallon of orange juice, and he's totally okay with this. He's like, you guys just tried to kill me, but that's okay. We're still friends. And you took my signature program and all my spread my millions around to all of you, and he's like okay with it.
I think to me it was like he was playing nice, like he just wanted to get the hell out of there. And the way I saw it, like he knew that he just wanted to make a deal to get out of that sauna. Like he wasn't going to follow through with anything. And I think that's kind of why he's able to set aside his feelings. Like, okay, my friends just tried to kill me, and like I can act like nothing's wrong, so that I can just get the hell out of here and like get away from them.
Well, I mean, and granted, he does think that he can get his way out of those agreements, but they wouldn't have let him out if he didn't sign all those documents. Right. So it's not like he was just saying yes to get out, because he went through with what they wanted, or else they would have lit him on fire in the sauna.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it would have been successful. I still feel like they just them being not the sharpest tools in the shed when it comes to murder. I don't know if they would have been successful in the end.
Well, no, but at the same time, I see gasoline on the floor and holding a grill torch. I feel like that probably would have been more successful than not. I don't know how you can screw that up. You might blow up the entire house and kill yourselves with it, but Jeff's dead, so I guess you were kind of successful.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I thought it was funny that Super kind of took them aside and was like, okay, let's think about this here. He's like, I still have to live in this house. So like, they're like, oh, are you worried about haunting?
That was why I kind of laughed at that moment. Yeah. Like, this man is afraid of Jeff's ghost haunting him.
There were just like, while they were trying to kill him and like right after, there were so many like absurd moments where the things they were suggesting, or even when Jeff, walks down to the breakfast table and they're all eating and they're like, oh yeah, we have a smoothie. You could have this one or this one or this one. And yeah, I mean, he walks in, and I don't know who it is that says it first, but they're like, I don't know if Venis says it, but they're just like, oh yeah, I'm sorry if you thought that you did something wrong. Or they just say like they're like totally gaslighting him. Yeah. It was laughable.
Yeah, and the whole thing, I mean, we kind of keep going back to the Succession effect on this. Like Succession at a lot throughout that series was like they're always trying to edge somebody out. So the plot to kill Jeff was very much the same thing. Like they're edging him out, and then of course that leads into the final scene, which we'll go into next, about edging other people out.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like the way that Jesse Armstrong writes, I felt like I could hear some of those lines coming out of like Kieran Culkin's mouth, as like Roman. I just there are certain things that, as they're trying to come up with the plot to kill Jeff, and like as they're doing it, there's just these like little like quirky lines that they say, and I could totally hear Roman.
It kind of felt like the three of them bickering like that. It did kind of have an effect of like Roman, Shiv, and Kendall. I couldn't think of Jeremy Strong's name. It kind of felt like the three of them going back and forth, and they can never come to an agreement because they all have their own self-interest in mind.
Yeah, like a sibling thing where, they're friends, but it was just like they're like bickering, they're bantering, like they're like, are you crazy? We can't do that. You're like, we got to think about this logically, but they're just throwing out these outlandish ideas.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point where it's like, no, Randall's like, no, I don't mean kill Jeff. I just mean like, kind of cripple him, remove him from the situation, and then that just snowballs to, okay, we're gonna kill Jeff now.
Right. It was just like, no, but what if we did off?
What if we did kill Jeff? Yeah.
Yeah. It just got so ridiculous.
Semi-serious. If you know, you know. Now, of course, that takes us to like the final end with this encounter. Jeff's like sitting in the car with Hester, and she's almost Hester kind of felt like an afterthought in this, but Jeff was still trying to take care of her, even if it was kind of like overbearing and she didn't want anything a part of it because it kind of freaked her out or whatever. But then Venis like throws his body up against the car and he's like, "Hey, let me out!" And they have this like big embrace where there's always this forgiveness, but Jeff's kind of like looking at him, and he's like, I'm gonna get my way out of this. I'm gonna get Bilter back. I'm gonna get my money back. This isn't gonna stick. And Venis is like shrugging him off, like, you don't want to spend the rest of your life in court, yada yada yada. And then like they kind of like hug, and there almost winds up being this agreement where it's like, Randall's dying. Edge him off the board. I know maybe you just don't want anything to do with Randall. Wait for him to die, and then we'll come back together and forge this new partnership. And Jeff is kind of like giving him like the winky nod, like secretly F you. Yeah, I'm still taking Bilter back.
Yeah, that was a weird scene, like with Venis throwing Randall under the bus, saying, "Oh, this whole thing to kill you, that was totally Randall's idea."
Yeah,
I just like went along with it.
And Randall almost has, as he's leaving too, he almost kind of has that sixth sense that he knows what they're talking about because he's looking up in the rearview mirror and he sees them talking, smiling or fake smiling and hugging each other.
Right.
Like he almost kind of knows that they're kind of like, whether it's imminent or down the road, they're kind of looking to play Randall.
Yeah, they're in cahoots, and he knows that he's kind of out. Like they're making plans that don't involve him because he's just the guy that's supposed to die soon. So it's like,
yeah, Papa Bear goes out to pasture at some point.
Right. So yeah, I think you see the sadness. But I would like to just say, this is the first thing we've seen in a while where Steve Carell does not die in the movie or show.
No, it's just a presumed thought that he's going to die.
Right. But he doesn't actually die, which is refreshing. Totally refreshing.
They kind of like walked back the trendy thing of him dying, and like, well, he's not gonna die, but we'll say he's gonna die eventually.
Right.
We just won't do it.
He's terminal, but we're not going to show him breathing his last breath.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a couple more works before we actually just see him live out a series or a film.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you see our series out. If you enjoy watching our show, we would very much appreciate a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can listen to our show as well on iHeartRadio, and there's a bunch of other platforms as well. Email us if you have questions or comments. redandredrealreviews@gmail.com. That is the letter N and real spelt with 2 E's. If you want to see the Ginger Greatness, you can watch us on YouTube and Rumble. Follow along with our adventures across social media. She is Binge the Ginge. That is dots between the words on Instagram and all one word on TikTok. And I am Nutmeg 2 Palmetto. That is the number 2 on both platforms. Next up, Paramount Plus. We love Tulsa King. I guess they just love this whole mafia thing because we are going to go right back to that action they bring to the screen with Mobland. Pierce Brosnan's in it. Helen Mirren's in it. Hard to get bigger names than that. So we're going to give you the full-on recap of that series. Until that very next real review, Ren and Red are signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Try not. Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you. Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Peace!
Fire, you son of a...
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
Not funny anymore.
TLC references. Still, nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.